Mia always felt an inexplicable shiver throughout her body whenever she entered Tessa's house. For years, she had been dating Randy, the son of this formidable woman, but she never managed to find common ground with her. Tessa was in her early 40s. She had given birth to Randy early, from a man she did not love, a man her conservative parents had forced her to marry when she was still very young. At that time, Pierce seemed like a suitable match: good salary, solid house, reliable relatives. Who could have known that he would start beating his young wife as soon as he drank? And Pierce drank often and heavily. He didn't care that there was a small child in the house, that Tessa was almost half his size, and his parents and sister turned a blind eye to everything. When Randy turned 5, his father died. He was returning from yet another drinking binge, fell into a ravine, and broke his neck. The incident seemed accidental to everyone, but some accused the widowed Tessa. Rumors spread that the woman, tired of constant beatings and humiliation, had found someone in a neighboring town, paid them generously, and staged it as an accident. No one knew for sure if this was true or not, but since then, people looked at Tessa with suspicion. After her husband's death, Tessa, who was just 24 at the time, just like Mia now, got down to business. She understood that she couldn't raise her son alone in the village. She used everything she inherited from Pierce: several hectares of agricultural land, a large orchard, a beekeeping farm, and many wooden structures built by his father. Tessa proved to be resourceful. She skillfully used her charm to get help from local men for free. Many hoped for the widow's favor, wishing to marry her. However, marriage was not in Tessa's plans. All she needed was to raise her son. It was the late 90s. The village of Birchwood was in decline, many had left, but even from this Tessa managed to benefit. She bought several abandoned houses cheaply. Her relatives scolded her for spending her earnings foolishly, but Tessa just laughed. She had money. She leased part of the land to farmers. Tessa's farm grew and developed. In just a few years, she managed to make a good capital, which she profitably invested in livestock and honey production. The neighbors envied her. After all, some young woman had started making a lot of money in their village. Many didn't like this approach, but Tessa provided jobs for all the locals. Therefore, no one dared to voice their thoughts openly. It turned out that the plots she had bought earlier had sharply increased in value. The village was not far from the city, so people looking to escape the urban hustle started moving there. Mansions and cottages quickly changed the landscape of Birchwood. When the far shore was completely built up, there were those who wanted to buy land in the old part of the village. This is where Tessa had the last laugh. She managed to sell her plots for millions. There was a lot of land, almost all along the river, in a picturesque spot, and not far from the road. After this, people started saying that the woman couldn't have known about such luck in advance, she must have used witchcraft. Rumors spread that Tessa deliberately got people drunk to acquire their property for a pittance and then sold it at a profit. But none of the rumors had any basis in reality. Despite her youth, Tessa was smart, had a knack for business, and always planned ahead. She also didn't drink and only interacted with neighbors for business matters. This might have alienated most of the locals against her. Over time, Tessa became one of the wealthiest women in the area. She even managed to buy a couple of city apartments. Randy grew up, and his mother took his future very seriously. When he finished school, she immediately arranged for his admission to a city university. The boy was bright, and despite his mother's efforts, he got into an agricultural academy with a scholarship. Tessa dreamed that her son would follow in her footsteps and go into business. She saved money diligently to provide Randy with a startup capital for his future. However, Randy had other ideas. From a young age, he was madly in love with animals, so his choice of future profession was a no-brainer. He decided to become a veterinarian. "What's the big deal, Mom?" he asked, puzzled. "What do you mean, what's the big deal?" His mother raised her eyebrows. "Why do you need these animals? You can't make money off them. All you think about is money, Randy retorted, offended. What's the point of it? To multiply it. I'm ready to give you my entire business so that you won't lack anything. You'll have your own family sooner or later. How will you support them on a veterinarian's salary? Money, money, money. Randy sighed. Just think about it. Imagine all your cows die from an unknown disease or stop producing milk. What will you do first? Calculate the losses or solve the problem with these cows? I don't even know, Tessa pondered. Probably go to the vet. Exactly. Randy's eyes sparkled. To the vet. Because only he can really help you. So, Mom, you can insist all you want that the main thing in life is to create a successful business and make money. But I'll still prefer a different path. I'm not cut out for this, you know that. But working with animals, that's my passion. Besides, I don't plan to stay in the city after finishing my studies. I'll come back here. Our village is developing. Many livestock farms have appeared. This is largely thanks to you. People look at you and try to achieve something too. I don't know. Maybe you're right, son, Tessa conceded. It was hard for Tessa to yield, but she loved Randy more than her own life. If he chose a calling for himself, she had no right to contradict him. She doubted he would come back, but Randy did return, as promised, and even opened his own small practice. His arrival in the village was well received. Before, they had to call a vet from a neighboring village, and by the time he arrived, it could be too late. Moreover, the vet wasn't very good, but Randy's practice took off immediately. He had a natural feel for animals, could quickly identify problems, and provide timely help. The young man, fresh out of school, quickly became popular in all the nearby villages. Randy would set out in any weather and at any time of day if he was called, no matter how far he had to go. His mother bought him a good SUV, which he ironically called his emergency rocket. While his mother still instilled fear among the locals, bolstered by years of rumors, Randy's kind nature endeared him to everyone. Mia couldn't resist his disarming smile. Randy had just returned from the city and set up his practice in a cottage specially built by his mother, Tessa, next to their large house. Mia worked at the local store. That day, she was doing inventory. She spent almost until nightfall in the stockroom, checking the supplies. When she stepped outside, it was already dark. Her home was not far, but part of the route went through an unlit section along a ravine. As she walked, Mia heard a pitiful whimper. She shone her phone flashlight towards the sound but saw nothing in the thick bushes. She was about to continue when the whimpering repeated, more distinctly and tragically this time. Mia approached the ravine. To see anything, she had to lie down on the ground. Below, in the bushes, something light-colored was moving. When the flashlight beam touched it, it trembled and cried again. Mia didn't hesitate. The determined girl carefully climbed down, scratching her hands on the branches. Only the locals knew about the steps cut into the clay soil. Mia descended them. When she reached the bottom, she headed towards the sound of the distressed creature. Parting the bushes, she shone her flashlight and saw a small light-colored dog. It appeared its back legs were injured. Poor thing. Mia said gently, extending her hand to the dog. How did you get here? I don't know how to help you. Tears welled up in her eyes. Since childhood, she couldn't pass by the weak and defenseless. But she also knew that an injured animal could be dangerous. Then Mia remembered hearing recently about a new veterinarian in the village. They said it was Tessa's son. Mia knew Randy but not very well. They had been friendly in childhood, but his strict mother had severely limited his interactions with peers, and he had been away for the past 5 years for college. Well, he seems to have finished his studies, she smiled to herself. Well, I don't think he'll refuse to help an old friend. With these thoughts, Mia headed to his house, leaving the dog in the ravine. She couldn't have managed to pull it out on her own. It was nearing 11 o'clock. Showing up at Tessa's house at that hour wasn't the best idea, but Mia couldn't just leave the animal. When she reached her destination, she stood at the gate, peering into the windows. Lights were still on in several rooms. Then Mia noticed that there was light in the neighboring cottage too. This was the place Randy planned to work, though Mia didn't know that. Gathering her courage, she opened the gate. She walked into the yard and, following her intuition, headed to the cottage. She knocked. After a few seconds, the door opened. Randy stood on the threshold. "Randy, hi." Mia greeted. "You probably don't remember me." "Mia, is that you?" He looked at her in surprise. "You recognized me," she was astonished. "Well, there's no time to chat. There's a problem. I heard you're a vet now. What's wrong?" Randy asked, immediately alert. "There's a dog in the ravine, injured. It looks like it was hit by a car. I went down there, but I can't pull it out on my own. Then I remembered you were back and decided to ask for help." "A dog, you say? Big?" "No," Mia frowned, "I'm not sure, really. It's in the bushes, but probably medium-sized, light-colored." "That must be Rocky," the vet said, worried. "He runs around without a leash. Looks like he got hit. Let's go quickly, show me where. I'll just grab something to carry him." Randy went inside. While Mia waited on the porch, she took in the large house. The building seemed impressive. Their house was the wealthiest in the whole area. Sure, there were fancier homes on the other side of the river, but those belonged to newcomers. Among the locals, Tessa had no equal. This was a brick house, standing out against the wooden homes of the other villagers. Mia's parents also had a stone house, but it was much simpler. And Tessa's plot of land was beyond praise. It was clear that the owner put a lot of care and money into maintaining the garden. As Mia admired the view, Randy reappeared. "Ready to go?" "Your house is beautiful," she remarked. "The house? Oh, yeah, that's all my mom's doing. She doesn't know where to spend her money, and she doesn't want to move to the city. So, she keeps herself busy here. And I'm grateful because she set up a great place for me. I have serious plans. I remember. You always dreamed of working with animals since childhood." Mia struggled to keep up with Randy's long strides. "Yes, I did. My mom was against it, of course. She only cares about money. But what about helping others? Young specialists don't really want to come here, but for me, it doesn't matter. City or village, there's no crazy competition here. Just specific problems. If I can solve them, I should." "That's a great approach." Mia genuinely admired him. "I dreamed of moving to the city for a long time, but it didn't work out. Then my mom got me a job at the store. So, I've been working at the cashier for 3 years now. But I'm studying psychology remotely, saving up money. That's a good pursuit too. But a psychologist in a village isn't a highly demanded profession. Which is a shame because many people here need that kind of help. Maybe fewer people would drink and beat their wives. But I don't plan to stay here forever. Once I finish my studies, I'll try to find a job in the city." "Stop. We're here. This is the ravine," said Mia. "Yeah, I remember it. I once fell here and almost broke my arm. There's a path with steps. I already climbed down today. It doesn't seem slippery. Turn on your flashlight and follow me," Randy suggested. They began descending slowly, surrounded by absolute silence. Mia wasn't even sure if the dog was still there. Once they successfully reached the bottom, the young people headed towards the bushes. Mia lit up the thicket. When Randy parted the branches where Mia had indicated, they saw the white dog. Its ears were pressed tightly against its head, and its large brown eyes were wide with fear. The dog bared its teeth and growled softly. Rocky. Randy said gently, extending his hand with the palm facing up. I knew it was you. How did you end up here? The dog made an attempt to wag its tail. Rocky was a small Laika, about 8 years old. He lived a few houses away from theirs. His owner used to go hunting often, but the man passed away, and the dog was left with his widow. The elderly woman didn't really need the dog, and Rocky refused to stay on a chain, preferring to roam the area. It seemed that this time, Rocky had been hit by a car and had slid into the ravine. Randy gently reached out and started petting his head. The scene was so touching that Mia felt tears welling up in her eyes. Hang in there, buddy, Randy murmured, we'll get you out of here. You're coming home with me, and we'll see what's up with those legs. As if agreeing, Rocky made a grumbling noise in response. Mia laughed. Look, he's talking back to you. Of course, Randy nodded, continuing to soothe the dog. They can't talk, but they understand everything just as well as we do. Help me out, lay this down on the ground, and I'll lift him out. With that, Randy stepped into the bushes. Mia quickly did as he asked. In a moment, Randy was carrying the dog in his arms. He gently placed the compliant Rocky on the spread-out cloth and quickly fastened the straps. It turned out to be some kind of special carrier. Slinging it over his shoulder, Randy looked around. We probably can't climb back up the way we came. Do you know if there's another way up? I think there was, Mia began to recall, but it's probably overgrown by now. Let's try to find it. Turn on your flashlight, I'll turn mine on too. We'll figure it out. They began feeling their way through the thick underbrush. Mia vaguely remembered where the path used to be, but it was too difficult to see in the dark. Eventually, they managed to reach the road that cut through the field. They realized they had wandered quite far from where they had descended. Yeah, Randy surveyed the area, it's a long way. Are you tired? I can walk you to the turn, and then I need to get Rocky home to treat him. I'm not in a hurry. You might need some help. I can go with you. It's not a big deal if I'm a couple of hours late. I was planning to spend half the night doing inventory at the store anyway, and I have the day off tomorrow. As you wish. I won't turn down an extra pair of hands. Are you okay with blood? I might need to operate. Don't make me laugh. Mia smiled. How can you live in a village and be afraid of blood? My parents have a lot of livestock. Alright, let's hurry then. They walked quickly along the dark path. The village lights were close, but the field seemed endless. Finally, the first house came into view. Seeing it gave them a burst of confidence, and Mia and Randy found a second wind, covering the remaining distance much faster despite the uphill climb. Mom's already asleep, Randy noted, looking at the dark windows. Then let's try not to make any noise, Mia nodded, following Randy through the gate. 2 weeks had passed since they found Rocky in the ravine. Randy had successfully operated on the dog, and the happy canine was now living with him. Despite Mia informing the dog's owner, Mrs. Flagler, about the incident the next day, she hadn't shown any interest in Rocky's fate. Looks like Rocky is going to stay with me, Randy said, shaking his head as he watched the dog peacefully snoozing in the grass. Do you think so? Mia was surprised. Although Mrs. Flagler didn't seem thrilled when I told her about the accident. She doesn't need him. Think about it. When her husband was alive, he used Rocky for hunting. But why would she need such a dog? He doesn't guard the yard. True, Mia pondered, how much longer does he need to be bandaged? I took off the cast yesterday. Luckily, the other leg wasn't broken, it's almost healed now. I think a couple more days, and I'll remove the bandages. You were amazing, Randy suddenly recalled, that night, when we first brought Rocky back. Not every girl has the nerves to watch an operation and assist too. I'm surprised myself, Mia blushed, I never thought I could do it. I guess something clicked in my head during a crisis. Have you ever thought about becoming a nurse? I think you'd be great at it. I'm not sure, Mia reflected. Honestly, I never considered it. That's a huge responsibility. Are you afraid of responsibility? Randy asked seriously. You seem like a serious person. I was even afraid to approach you as a kid. Why? Mia raised her eyebrows. She did remember that Randy had often kept his distance, rarely joining in games if she was around. I don't know, Randy shrugged. Some girls are like that. They're beautiful and smart, and you're scared to approach them because you might look foolish. You were afraid of looking foolish around me? Yeah. You, compared to me? Don't make me laugh, Randy. Everyone knows you're the smartest guy in our village. You have a higher education and have always been clever. That's not what I mean, Mia. Intelligence and wisdom are different. Even if I went to college 1,000 times, it wouldn't make me wiser. You really think I'm wise? Mia, you underestimate yourself. You're studying to be a psychologist. That requires understanding people's souls, and that's a talent. This studying is tough. Maybe it would be easier if I were in the city, Mia said. It has nothing to do with the city, Randy objected. What matters is the desire for knowledge and your potential, not the location. Believe me, you'll prove yourself. I hope so, Mia sighed. There's no one to talk to here. The girls seem to think about trivial things, and the boys have only one thing on their minds. But you have me. You can talk to me anytime. I find you interesting, and I'm not a bad conversationalist. If it weren't for Rocky, I wouldn't have dared to knock on your door. It was all by chance. There are no coincidences, Mia. Everything happens for a reason. If Rocky ended up in that ravine for you to find him, it was probably meant for us to meet. Do you really think so? Mia blushed. She realized she had feelings for him. The way he spoke to her touched something in her soul, making her heart flutter. I always say what I mean. What's the point in lying? After these words, Randy looked at Mia in a way that made her blush even more. She really liked Randy. Over the past 2 weeks, she had grown attached to him. They met every day, went for walks, and she helped him with his patients. It never crossed her mind that her feelings might be reciprocated. Mia, Randy broke the silence. How about we go to the lake tonight? What's there? Mia realized how silly her question sounded as soon as she asked it. What do you mean? Randy seemed surprised. We can go swimming. I have no plans for the evening. All right, Mia agreed, but not too late. I have to get up early for work tomorrow. Then let's meet at 7. I'll come by to pick you up. The evening was calm, the heat had subsided, but it was still warm. The setting sun cast its rays, reflecting off the water and painting everything in golden pink hues. It's beautiful here, Mia said. They didn't feel like swimming, so they decided to just lie on the shore. That's right. The sunsets here are something else. I've never seen a sky like this anywhere else. Are you hungry? I brought some sausages. We can grill them over a fire. I wouldn't say no, Mia laughed. Food is sacred. I love to eat. You wouldn't know it by looking at you, Randy remarked, glancing at her slender figure. All right, I'll go get some dry branches. You prepare the spot, and we'll get it done quickly. Mia dug a small pit in the sand, and Randy piled it with dry branches. The flames quickly caught the wood, and cheerful sparks danced in the air. They skewered the sausages on thin sticks. The sausages cooked quickly, and Mia kept laughing while chewing on the charred treats. The evening flew by, and the first stars appeared in the sky as dusk settled around them. It's probably time to go, Mia said reluctantly, poking the dying embers with a stick. She wished she could sit by the lake with Randy forever, talking about everything and nothing, without worrying about home, the next day, or everyday concerns and problems. Yeah, it's time, Randy sighed. He didn't want to leave either. He liked Mia. It had been a long time since he felt so at ease with someone. They both felt a certain tension. In the silence, only the chirping of crickets could be heard. Suddenly, Randy leaned in and kissed Mia. At first, she pulled back slightly, but then she responded to the kiss. Mia and Randy started dating, but Tessa wasn't very pleased. It wasn't that she disapproved of Mia, her family was well respected in the village. Before Tessa got married, she had been friends with Mia's mother, though that friendship had faded over time. They still spoke when they saw each other, but the interactions lacked warmth. The fact that her beloved son was now dating her former friend's daughter unsettled Tessa. She couldn't come to terms with being second in Randy's life, but she tried not to openly show her disapproval. Mia often visited Randy's home, but she felt uncomfortable under Tessa's watchful gaze. She preferred staying in Randy's cottage, helping him with his work. One day, she arrived at Randy's place, but he wasn't home. He had been called out urgently to a neighboring village. Tessa opened the door. "Come in, Mia, come in," Tessa said with feigned friendliness. "If Randy isn't here, I'll come back later," Mia tried to resist. "What's the matter?" Tessa asked in surprise. "Are you afraid of me like everyone else?" "Why would I be afraid of you?" Mia laughed, though it was the truth. "I don't know," Randy's mother looked away. "Why won't you come in? We might soon be family. It's time to get used to each other." Mia had no choice but to accept the invitation. She walked in cautiously, feeling a slight tremor as she still felt uneasy in Tessa's presence. "Sit down, dear, let's have some tea," Tessa offered. Mia sensed there was more to this seemingly innocent offer, but it was too late to decline. The women sat at the round table, where a large teapot and various treats were already laid out. "Help yourself, dear," Tessa offered Mia some jam. "I made it myself. It's my specialty. Randy loves it." "Thank you," Mia blushed but tried the jam. It was indeed delicious. By the time Tessa poured her a third cup of tea, the conversation had naturally flowed. They chatted about everyday matters and gossiped about neighbors. "You're a good girl, Mia," Tessa said. "Interesting, not foolish, and not one for gossip. I see why Randy likes you. You're quite a beauty, too." "Oh, come on," Mia waved her hand dismissively. "I'm just an ordinary girl. My son wouldn't pay attention to just an ordinary girl. He's special. When he chooses, he picks the best." Though the compliment flattered Mia, she felt Tessa's words were comparing her to an object. "Have you thought about marriage yet?" "What marriage, Tessa?" Mia exclaimed, surprised. "We've only been seeing each other for a short time. It's too early to think about that." "It's never too early," Tessa protested. "I'm not saying you should get married today, but it's good to plan these things early." "We haven't discussed it with Randy," Mia replied. Tessa squinted and stared intently at Mia. She hadn't planned on a wedding, that was for sure, but she brought it up to gauge the seriousness of the girl's intentions. What irritated her most was that Mia seemed perfectly flawless. There was nothing to criticize about her, nothing to tarnish her image in Randy's eyes. Tessa had already ascertained that Mia had an impeccable reputation. She didn't respond to advances from local admirers, took her work seriously, didn't behave provocatively, and everything at home seemed smooth. Tessa often found herself debating with herself, trying to understand why she felt so opposed to her son's choice. But she couldn't come up with any logical arguments. However, with each passing day, Tessa's dislike for Mia only grew. She even caught herself thinking she'd like to poison her guest's tea. "Tessa, I think I should go," Mia said hesitantly, sensing the negativity emanating from the woman. "Why the rush? You could have waited for Randy. He seems to be delayed, and I don't want to burden you. There's still work to do at home, I need to help my mother." "Well, if it's about work, I won't detain you. But don't be shy, come in, we had a nice chat. You and Randy are always at his office, I don't even know what to think." "Oh, Tessa, we're not up to anything like that. I just don't want to intrude." "Intrude? Do you think I'm so busy? I have help with the household chores. And if you're thinking I'm always earning money, that's not true at all. I don't know what people are saying about me, but I'm not such a terrible person. Why does it matter what people say? Protested Mia. Can you really believe all those rumors? Especially that Randy was raised by a terrible woman. Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad you're not as gullible as the others. But rumors? Of course, not all of them are groundless. But since my youth, I've been used to earning. You understand that where there's money, there's headache. I did everything I could for Randy. When my husband died, we were left alone. We didn't have any relatives to rely on, so I had to pull myself together. I really respect you, Tessa. There are very few people like you, especially here in the village. Why don't you move to the city? Aren't you bored here? What would I do in the city? It's too early to retire, and everything is settled here. Don't you want to get married again? You're still young and beautiful, I bet many would still propose to you. Don't be ridiculous, dear. What marriage? No one can handle my character. Besides, I've grown used to being alone. It's you young ones who think only about love. For me, it's important just to make it through tomorrow. Don't think like that, Tessa. Mia sighed and stood up from the table. Love can come at any moment, even when you least expect it. Thank you for the treat. Please tell Randy I stopped by. Of course, I'll tell him. When Mia left the house, she immediately felt a sense of relief. She couldn't understand why she felt so out of place in the company of this seemingly friendly woman. Tessa hadn't shown any aggression, on the contrary, she had tried to be hospitable to Mia. But subconsciously, Mia felt that Randy's mother didn't quite like her. Quickly reaching her own home, Mia found her mother waiting on the porch. Shiri wore her usual smile. You're home early today, she remarked cunningly at her daughter. Did you have a fight with Randy? Oh, Mom, why would you say that? Randy wasn't home, he left for work. Is that so? Then it's even stranger. Where were you for 2 hours then? I was having tea with Tessa, Mia said. It's impossible for Tessa to let anyone into her house. She can't stand people. I understand you and Randy have love, but it's one thing with him to come, and quite another for you to be there alone. I was surprised myself when she invited me. I felt uncomfortable being near that woman. Listen to my advice, daughter, stay away from her. No one knows what Tessa is up to. She's a dangerous person, if necessary, she won't hesitate to strike. But you used to be friends. Yes, Tessa was still a teenager back then. Her parents kept her under strict control. She used to sneak out through my window at night. We would sit and talk for hours. She wasn't cut out for that kind of life, but what could she do? Her father wouldn't let her go to the city for anything. In his view, a woman's fate was to bear children and manage the household so that her husband wouldn't get upset. He didn't value his wife at all, but she had gotten used to it over the years. And then there was their daughter, not a delicate flower, but with her own views and a strong character. She dreamed of escaping to the city. There was a guy who courted her, but her parents were against it. And then they forcibly married her off to Pierce. How could they marry such a free-spirited and talented girl off to a miser and a misogynist who drank? Sure, he made good money, but was that really important? She was just 19 at the time. She was afraid to argue with her father. They still wanted to run away with that boy, but her father found out. He made a deal with Pierce, and they got revenge on that boy. And what happened? Mia was horrified. They beat that boy badly. They hid it from Tessa. She probably still doesn't know that he didn't leave her but was just afraid of her father. They told her he ran away to the city with some girl. They rushed him to the city hospital that night, and they never found out who did it. He never came back here. And you know the rest. Is it true that she's involved in her husband's death? People say all sorts of things. But you can't believe everything. I knew Tessa well. She couldn't have taken such a sin upon her soul. She's a tough, harsh woman, but not capable of crimes. Pierce was to blame himself. Why the hell was he drunk driving home at night? He knew the road was bad, lots of ditches. He crashed and broke his neck. Now Tessa has to live with those shameful glances her whole life. I feel like she doesn't like me, Mom, Mia sighed. If she's talking to you and having tea, she probably doesn't hate you. That's good. Of course, you're after her son, and she's a terrible owner in that regard. We rarely talk now, but we were good friends in our youth. Once she got into business, she forgot about everything else. Randy is her only joy. If I were in her place, I'd probably react the same way. How long have you two been together? A couple of months. She just needs time to get used to it. But don't get too close to her. This woman can easily gain your trust, but once she finds a reason, she'll make your life miserable. She asked me today about the wedding. What wedding? Her mother was surprised. She asked when Randy and I are getting married. I explained that it's too early to think about that. She looked at me so strangely. You can understand her. She's testing you. Probably seeing how serious your intentions are with her son. Just know, don't joke around with her. Randy will stand up for you, of course, but for now, proceed with caution. Okay, Mom, Mia smiled. Winter was harsh. Randy was swamped with work, not all the animals endured the frosts well. So many frostbite cases today. The guy wearily sat down at the table, and what's interesting is that people come to me too. Mr. Dempsey froze his hands. I treated them in the morning, and I'm not even a doctor. A doctor. Mia laughed. When will this cold spell end? I could barely make it to you today. I told you to stay home, my car won't even start, and here you are, not sparing yourself, Randy said wearily. Not for a minute can I be without you, Mia said softly, embracing him by the shoulders. Well, at least Tessa didn't see me at the window, or she would have definitely scolded me. Don't mind my mom. We've been together for 6 months, and she still hasn't gotten used to it, Mia said. Randy, tell me, why doesn't she like me? Mia asked. Who can understand someone else's mind? She doesn't dislike you, she's just keeping her distance. I know her well. She'll get used to it. Once we have our own family, she won't have any authority over me. That's what she's afraid of. And really, what does it matter how she feels about you? The important thing is that I love you, and you love me. Let's get married and get our own place. I'll just work here, Randy replied. Our own place. Where will we get the money for that? I really don't want to borrow from Tessa, Mia sighed. We won't borrow anything from my mom. I have some savings, not a lot, but... Randy trailed off. We could live with my parents, Mia suggested. No way. Mom wouldn't forgive us for that. Alright, I'll think of something. We still have time, Randy reassured her. Time? Mia sounded wary. Yes, I think we should have our wedding in the summer. It'll be a year since we've been together. It's the perfect time, Randy suggested. Are you proposing to me like this? Mia was surprised. Why not? Randy smiled. Sorry, of course, no ring, though. Randy jumped up from his chair and rushed out of the room. A couple of minutes later, he returned with something in his hand. I'm really sorry I didn't think about this beforehand. I didn't expect us to have this conversation now. I wanted to prepare more carefully. Anyway. Randy knelt in front of Mia and opened the box he held in his palm. Mia gasped. A beautiful blue stone sparkled against the red velvet. A ring, was all she could say. Mia, will you marry me? Randy's eyes gleamed. Of course, yes. Mia exclaimed. You're out of your mind. This is a whole fortune. Let's get one thing straight. It doesn't matter how much it costs. If I believe only you deserve to wear this ring, then so it shall be, Randy said gently as he slipped the ring onto Mia's slender finger and kissed her hand. I don't know what to say, Mia whispered. You've already said the most important words in life. The rest doesn't matter, Randy assured her. Now, what about telling Tessa? I won't be able to hide this from my parents, Mia pondered. We can tell my mom right now. Let's go. We'll visit her, Randy suggested. No, Mia recoiled. I'm scared. Silly girl, what are you afraid of? Randy chuckled in surprise. She won't eat you. This is our choice. Mom has no right to object. So don't be afraid. I think if she hears about it first, she might even be flattered. Alright, Mia relented. Mia still had her doubts. There was a lingering sense of unease in her heart. They hastily dressed and rushed out of the clinic into the chilly courtyard. The couple quickly made their way to the porch of a large house and, laughing, entered inside. Rocky joyfully barked, having claimed his spot under the stairs. Randy kissed Mia, who was laughing, when suddenly Tessa appeared nearby. You shameless pair, she dryly remarked. Hello, Tessa, Mia murmured, her playful mood instantly evaporating. Hello, Mia, Tessa's tone was not particularly friendly. The couple moved to the kitchen. Tessa made them tea and seated them at the table. Mom, Randy said seriously, we have news for you. I'll tell you straight away, you'll be the first to know. Very interesting, Tessa skeptically eyed her son. Today, I proposed to Mia. We're thinking of having our wedding in the summer. There was an awkward pause. Tessa seemed taken aback. Hearing such news was the last thing she wanted. In the silence, the dog's panting could be heard from somewhere behind the door, as if sensing that something important was happening in the house and desperately trying to get inside. Well, Tessa said, I wish you happiness. Mom, aren't you happy? Randy asked. Mia wished she could disappear through the floor rather than hear what her future mother-in-law would say. Of course, I am happy, dear, Tessa replied, it's just that don't you think you're rushing things? Less than a year together, and already getting married. From what I remember, you were asking Mia about the wedding back in the fall. What's changed? Back then, we had just started dating. Besides, I'm an adult now. It's time for me to start a family. Don't you want to spoil your grandchildren? And what does Mia think? Tessa asked, looking intently at the girl. Mia hesitated. She agreed, Mom, Randy answered for her. I'm not asking you right now. I already figured out she agreed. You wouldn't have come here otherwise. So, Mia. Tessa pressed on. I really want to be a worthy wife for your son, Mia said softly. I see, Tessa nodded. Alright, do as you see fit. Summer is still far away, anything could happen. We'll talk more about it closer to the date. Mia sat in stunned silence. The woman's words scared her. Did she seriously think they wouldn't last until summer? How dare she doubt our feelings? Mia was burning inside, but externally, she showed none of it. Of course, she didn't want to let go of her son, but this couldn't go on forever. He was 25 already, it was time to have children. If she doesn't genuinely rejoice now, I won't have peace. And I'll have to move. I definitely won't survive under the same roof as her. And where do you plan to live? Tessa asked, seemingly reading Mia's thoughts. Well, Randy said, I think I'll figure that out by summer. I have some ideas. So, you want to move out of here? Tessa clarified. We could live in the cottage for a while, but it's not really set up for living, so probably not, Randy replied. Don't tell me, Randy, you plan to move to the city? Mia? Tessa questioned. Mia seemed to wake up at the sound of her name. What? Move to the city? No, of course not, Tessa. Why move to the city? Everything's going well for Randy here. For Randy, yes. What about you? As far as I know, you're studying to be a psychologist. What will you do with that education in the village? It's clear that eventually, you'll want to work in your field. I still need to finish my studies. I have 2 more years left. And you yourself said we should wait until summer. What's the point of speculating now if everything could change? Mia responded cautiously. Mia unexpectedly found courage. It turned out to be her mistake. Tessa, realizing that her own words had backfired, fell silent. However, she quickly put on a friendly smile. Fair enough, dear, she said. Let's live and see. Mia didn't stay long and started to gather her things to go home. Randy offered to walk her out. Oh, Mia, he shook his head, you handled Mom quite skillfully. I just worry she might be offended now. No one has dared to contradict her so openly before. Do you think so? Mia was scared. I really didn't mean any harm. She herself said everything should be decided according to circumstances. I just confirmed her words. Yeah, but in what manner? You made her look short-sighted. You've proven to me once again that I didn't make a mistake in choosing you. I couldn't help but fall in love with such a brave girl. Randy, what do we do now? Why are you afraid? You know, nobody has ever stood up to my mom. She's used to everyone around her agreeing with her. But you did well, speaking your mind. Trust me, even though she might get mad, she'll respect that kind of character. Tessa was categorically unhappy with the situation. After waiting for her son to return, she called him for a conversation. Randy, she began. I still think you're rushing things. I'm sorry, but I have to voice my opinion. Mom, I'm an adult now, I've already made up my mind. It doesn't matter what you say. Mia is my conscious choice. I can be myself with this girl. I love her, understand? Love. What do you know about it? You've been busy with your studies all the time. Of course, a pretty girl appears on the horizon and suddenly it's love. You haven't seen much of life yet. You'll have hundreds more like her. Can you really marry the first one that comes along? Mom, Randy's expression became serious. Mia isn't just the first one. I want her to be my wife. And what do you know about love to talk like this? They married you off to a man you hated and who beat you. And yes, he might be my father, but I barely remember him. I'm glad he's no longer in our lives. Instead of finding your own happiness, you're just making money. There's already nowhere left to put it, and you still can't stop. I'm thinking about your future. No, I can think about my own future now. You've already done too much for me. You've paved the way for me in life, for which I'm very grateful. But from here on out, let me handle it myself. I don't need your money. I'll manage to earn my own. It might not be much, but it'll be enough to support a family. But I still think Mia isn't right for you. Why do you say that? Randy looked surprised. What's wrong with her? Just think about it. You're a promising, educated, handsome guy. You could find someone much better. And what about her, just a country girl? Well, aren't I a country boy too? Isn't that right? Besides, Mia is also studying. Psychologists are in demand nowadays. Where will she work here with her diploma? Treating alcoholics? Or teaching cows to converse? Don't make me laugh. Obviously, she'll leave for the city at the first opportunity and take you with her. What's wrong with that? Or are you afraid I won't come here anymore, and all your efforts will go to waste? That's not true. I love you, I'll never abandon you. You should have left this farm a long time ago and moved closer to civilization. Why don't you find yourself a man? You're an interesting, strong, smart woman. You're not easy to find. But here you are, monopolizing power here. Sometimes you need to think about yourself, not just profits. You don't understand, Randy. Tessa tried to defend herself, but her son's words stung deeply. What don't I understand? Why do you prefer to stay here? I don't understand. You're right. We only have one life, and we shouldn't spend it like you do. Randy. That's it, Mom, I don't want to discuss this anymore. I'm marrying Mia. Whether you like it or not. With that, Randy slammed the door and left for his clinic. Tessa sat there for a long time, unable to move. Not only had Mia dared to contradict her, but now Randy was asserting his independence. To find a man. If only he understood that I've put my whole life into his future, and he acts so recklessly. No, there won't be a wedding, she reasoned aloud. Tessa wasn't used to just sitting idly, but right now she couldn't even get up from her chair. Gradually, a plan formed in her mind. Hello, Malcolm, Tessa said into the phone. I need to talk to you about something very important. Could we meet? That would be great. Yes, I'll come over. I was actually planning to head into town soon for some business. I'll call you when I'm there. Goodbye. That's settled, she muttered to herself. Malcolm was an old business partner of Tessa's. Back in the late 90s, he helped her with real estate deals. Since then, she often consulted him on buying and selling properties. He used to be a former gangster who controlled almost all construction business in town. He even proposed to Tessa once, but such offers seemed unserious to her, and she didn't want to tie her life to a dubious criminal authority. Besides, she was also somewhat afraid of Malcolm. However, he insisted she could turn to him if she ever needed help, and Tessa decided to take him up on that offer. 3 days later, she was in the city. Malcolm arranged to meet her at a restaurant. For the occasion, Tessa dressed to impress, wearing an elegant pantsuit, high-heeled boots, and a striking light-colored fur coat. In this attire, Tessa looked nothing like a rural resident. She drove a nice SUV, almost as good as Randy's, but white, giving off the impression of a successful businesswoman. When Malcolm saw her, he was visibly impressed. He gallantly helped her to the table and even kissed her hand. He was an old man in his 70s, but he looked well preserved. Gold-rimmed glasses adorned his stern face, along with an elegant gray beard. Tessa, my dear, he began, you look dazzling. Once again, I'll propose you become my wife. I know I'm old, but I can still offer you a lot. Malcolm, Tessa chuckled, it's very flattering, but I must decline once again. Please don't take it personally. I'm not planning to get married at all. I have my business, my son. Speaking of whom, I wanted to talk to you about him. I like how you get straight to the point. That's why I love you. If only all women were like that, Malcolm replied. It would be chaos, Tessa said, don't get too excited, Malcolm. I'm not an easy woman. My character is such that even someone like you would find it challenging. Understood, he held up his hands as if surrendering, but before we get down to business, let's order. They have delicious trout here. I highly recommend it. Excellent, Tessa smiled, looking over the menu. They placed their order, and as soon as the waiter left, Tessa got down to her question. Malcolm, you know I have a son, right? Randy, I believe, he nodded. Exactly. And right now, he's gotten himself into a difficult situation. Legal trouble? Malcolm asked. No, thank goodness. He's a very decent young man with high moral standards. He works as a veterinarian, loves animals. Try as I might to involve him in the business, he's not interested. But the problem is something else. He's planning to get married. Malcolm raised an eyebrow, wrinkles forming at the corners of his eyes. He struggled to suppress a smile. Married? Yes, the situation is quite complicated. Don't tell me, Tessa frowned, from the outside, it may sound silly, but you see, I don't like his girlfriend. And he does. Malcolm inquired. This fool has convinced himself he loves her. But it's just laughable. They've only been dating for 6 months, already in love. She's just stringing him along because she knows he's well off. It's all a game to her. Tessa wouldn't agree with the last remark herself. She knew Mia's family too well to assume their daughter was after inheritance. But this argument could have the desired effect on Malcolm. Or maybe it's simpler than that, Malcolm suddenly suggested. Maybe you, dear Tessa, just don't want to share your son with some outsider. Nonsense, Tessa waved off. He's a grown man, he can decide for himself. But until I approve of his fiancée, there won't be any wedding. Tessa, I look at you and I can't quite figure you out. You seem like a modern woman, but your views are quite conservative. Why not just cut off his funding and inheritance temporarily to test how sincere this girl really is towards him? Make sure she's not just another gold digger. Comfort your son afterwards and give everything back to him. Until he learns from his mistakes, trying to teach him is futile. I don't like her, Malcolm, Tessa almost shouted. I know perfectly well she doesn't need my money. They're moving out of my house just to start everything on their own. Fools. Why don't you like her? He asked. Is she from a drinking family? Not attractive, stupid, mediocre. None of that, Tessa covered her face with her hands. Then what's the matter? I don't understand. I just don't want Randy to marry her, that's all. Isn't that enough? Well, all right. Arguing seems pointless. How can I help in this situation? Tessa immediately dropped the role of a suffering mother and assumed a businesslike demeanor. Malcolm was once again amazed at how cunning this woman could be. I thought the best way would be to discredit Mia. The problem is, she's almost like a nun. So many guys have pursued her and still do, but she turns them all down. But she liked my Randy. So maybe it's fate, he suggested. Stop it. Among country folks, he looks like a king. But I think if a guy comes to our village who makes Randy look like a simpleton by comparison and starts actively courting Mia, no woman can resist. Especially if this attractive and well-off man promises her a life of luxury for good measure. For some reason, this plan doesn't seem to work with you, he chuckled. All right, I understand. I suppose I should find such a young man. Exactly, Tessa air-kissed Malcolm. But it has to appear completely coincidental from the outside. Their meeting, their interaction, everything. When this guy charms her, and I'm sure he will, Randy will immediately see what he's gotten himself into and dump her. Genius. Malcolm's expression didn't reveal whether it was sarcasm or genuine admiration for Tessa's plan. I was starting to think you wanted to get rid of the girl yourself, he said. All right, Tessa, it'll be as you say. I'll do everything, as long as it makes you smile. Spring arrived quickly. The sun was so intense that flowers began to sprout in vibrant patches across the brown earth. Mia was feeling bored at the shop. Randy had gone away for a week to attend some veterinary conference. She had been alone for 3 days now. Only 4 people had visited the shop all day. Among the visitors was one of Mia's friends, Jess. She rushed into the store and immediately gulped down a bottle of water. Oh, Mia, you won't believe it. Jess exclaimed. What's going on? Where were you running from? Was someone chasing you? Mia asked. You're such a fool. Jess laughed. I just saw the most amazing guy. Come on, tell me who impressed you so much. Remember that house they've been building for ages at the bend of the river? The one that looks like a castle? Of course, I remember. I walk past it every day. But I've never seen anyone living there. They've finally arrived. Or rather, he has. I don't think he's married. Who is he? Can you tell the story normally? Okay, so I was walking near the Appleby house, which is a pretty deserted place. What were you doing there? Oh, I was coming from Brian's. Spent the night there, Jess said casually. Mia just shook her head, marveling at her friend's carefree attitude. That's not important. So, I'm walking, and suddenly these dogs come rushing out of that house. I was in heels, nowhere to run. I froze. They surrounded me, barking. I closed my eyes, thinking my time had come. And then he appeared. Jess's eyes widened so much that Mia worried they might pop out. He started honking his horn. At first, I didn't understand what was happening. I flinched, and then I saw this cool SUV with the driver honking. The dogs backed off but didn't leave. Then he jumped out of the car in this amazing suit, perfectly groomed, holding a bat. He started chasing the dogs away, got all dusty, stepped right into the mud with his fancy leather shoes, and said to me, "My lady, please, step into the carriage." He actually said that. Mia was astonished. That's exactly what he said. I couldn't believe my ears, but I quickly got into the car. We sat there, catching our breath. The adrenaline was unreal. And then what? While we were sitting, he told me he was going to live here now. Built the house for himself. I didn't ask if he was alone or with family, but I didn't see a ring on his finger. Judging by his looks, he's probably single. He's such a dreamboat. He drove me home. Nice. Mia laughed. So, are you already planning to marry him? Why not? I want to be happy too. Brian is too fickle. At that moment, the shop door swung open. Jess turned to look and then quickly looked away, making some signals to Mia. Are you okay? Mia asked, concerned. Jess, what's wrong? It's him. Jess whispered, shrinking down. The prince. Oh. Mia's eyes widened, and she quickly glanced at the newcomer. Good afternoon, ladies, the visitor said in a pleasant baritone. Oh, my old acquaintance. Didn't expect to see you again today. I just came to the shop, Jess replied. Didn't get chased by dogs again, did you? Jess just told me that wonderful rescue story, Mia couldn't help but say. For some reason, her friend's behavior struck her as ridiculously funny. There was nothing wonderful about it, the young man laughed. I just did what any man would do when seeing a lady in distress. Oh, I have to run, need to pick up my sister from kindergarten. Totally forgot. Goodbye, said Jess and hurried out. Mia watched her go. Your friend? The stranger asked. Yes, Mia nodded. And you're our new neighbor? Kerr, the guy extended his hand to Mia. She introduced herself and shook his hand. Yeah, I built the house here. Maybe you've seen it, looks a bit like a castle. Of course. We always wondered who could afford such a mansion. It's my parents' whim. They've always dreamed of a family estate. So I decided to give them a special gift. We have a big family, so we'll fit. 2 sisters, mom, and dad. The girls will get married soon. If they want, they can live here with their families too. Wow, those are some plans. And your wife and kids? Sorry, that might have come out wrong. No, it's fine. I'm not married, haven't started a family yet. I'm only 33, need to earn enough to support a family first, then start one. That's my life principle. So I earned, built the house, but still haven't found the right candidates. And you decided to find a partner in the village? Mia laughed. Why not? I see the girls here are beautiful and seem smart too. Plus, I plan to settle here for good. My business runs fine without my constant presence. And if I find a wife here, I won't have to convince anyone to move. Interesting approach. Well, I can help you find a bride. Just hint at what kind of girls you like. Someone like you, Kerr suddenly said. Mia suddenly blushed. She didn't even know what to say. Sorry if I embarrassed you, the young man began to apologize. I didn't mean to. Well, actually I did, but... In short, you're my type. It's clear you're not just pretty but also smart. You can stand up for yourself and... Mia prompted. Beautiful, Kerr admitted, looking a bit flustered. Okay, I understand. I'm sorry, Kerr, but I can't reciprocate your feelings. I have a fiancé whom I love, and we're getting married this summer. But you can count on my help. I'll show you around, introduce you to the locals, and then you're on your own. Great, the young man said, visibly relieved. That's all I hoped for. I hope it's not too much trouble. Randy, my fiancé, is away right now, and I have 3 days off ahead. So, if you have time, let's meet tomorrow and take a walk. You can come to my place, and I'll introduce you to my parents. They are quite the characters. My dad knows everything about everyone in town, Mia smiled. Alright, I'd love to. See you tomorrow then. See you tomorrow, Mia echoed. Wait. What's wrong? Kerr turned around. You didn't buy anything. Oh, right. Thanks for reminding me. Kerr smacked his forehead in an exaggerated gesture, making Mia laugh. As promised, Kerr arrived at Mia's house the next day. She was sitting on the porch, sipping tea. When the man walked through the gate carrying a huge bouquet of roses, she almost dropped her cup. Oh my goodness, are you crazy? She exclaimed in surprise. It's impolite to come empty-handed. I thought flowers would be the best gift. Where did you get these roses? They don't sell such flowers around here. I went to the city early this morning. And you didn't mind the trouble? If you don't want to accept the bouquet, we can give it to your mom. Alright, Mia smiled. People would misunderstand if I accepted flowers from a man I barely know when my wedding is soon. Yes, it's probably tactless on my part. No harm done. Let's consider it a gift for all of us. My dad loves roses too. He even tried growing them for a while. Let's go inside. Mia led Kerr into the house, where they were greeted by Mia's mother, Erin. Wow! Erin exclaimed, admiring the luxurious bouquet. These are for you, Kerr smiled and handed the flowers to the hostess. My name is Kerr. Erin, the woman introduced herself. My husband is at work and won't be back until the afternoon. If you can come by later, we'd love to have you. Of course. I have no plans today. Mia promised to show me around. We can take a walk and then come back. If that's all right with her. It's all right, Mia smiled. I offered to show you around myself. But you're not dressed for this area. Kerr looked at himself. A classic dark blue coat, polished shoes, and slightly tapered trousers with sharp creases. Yeah, you're probably right. I didn't think about it. We can drive around a bit, and then I'll find something more suitable for a walk. Agreed, Mia nodded. Let me just grab my jacket, and we'll go. Mia and Kerr got into the car and drove around the area. The scenery isn't at its best right now, but in the summer, it's incredibly beautiful. And your house is right by the river. Mia, have you always lived here? Yes, my parents were born here too. And such a beautiful and interesting girl wants to spend her whole life in a village. You should move to the city, there's so much out there. What's in the city? I like it here. I'm getting married soon. Randy doesn't want to leave either. He has his practice here. Practice? Yes, he's a veterinarian. And a very good one. His mother had different dreams for him, but it's his choice. Interesting. Usually, girls are eager to leave the village. Of course. For example, Jess, the girl you saved from the dogs yesterday. She dreams of a better life in the city. Girls leave because life here isn't great. Parents drink, there aren't many decent guys, and there are few job opportunities. I'm lucky to have a job at the store. It's not the most glamorous job, but it works well with my studies. You're still studying? Kerr was surprised. Yes, to become a psychologist. I'm almost done. I think you'd make a great psychologist. Why do you think that? You barely know me. It's hard to judge such things. You immediately inspire trust, you're easy to talk to, and it's clear you care about making others feel comfortable. Maybe, Mia smiled. But I don't think you can build a career here. I know. When I started my studies, I had different plans, but then I met Randy. It's okay. I'll get my diploma, just to have it. I can't leave him here alone and move to the city. Are you sure you want to spend your life with him? Of course, I love him. And I think my psychology skills will come in handy for raising children, for example. That's true. Mia, it's a shame we didn't meet earlier. I would have asked you to marry me without hesitation. Don't be silly. You need to know a person well for that. You might not have liked me if we got to know each other better. You're wrong about that. But I see this conversation isn't very comfortable for you. I won't push it further, but I hope we can continue to be friends. It's tough being in a new place without friends. Of course. Come visit us. You'll get to know my dad, you'll definitely get along. He's a very interesting man, even if he's a bit simple. After driving around the country roads for a bit longer, they returned. Kerr stayed for tea before heading back home. The next day, he came by again. This time, he invited Mia for a tour of his house. I don't want this to look like I'm bragging, Kerr said, glancing away, but here's my house. It took a lot of effort to build. I hope it can become the family home my parents dreamed of. It's beautiful. Mia exclaimed as she stepped inside. It must have cost a fortune to build something like this. Not a small amount, I'll admit. But my father and I have a construction business in the city, so it didn't cost as much as it would for an average person. So, you're not an average person. Some might say that, but I don't see myself that way. I was raised strictly and wasn't spoiled. Don't think I'm some rich guy. It's just the trappings of a successful life. I would have been happy to buy a regular house here and live comfortably. But status demands certain things. I imagine girls must be flocking to you. Have you really not found anyone worthy among them? Mia and Kerr wandered through the spacious rooms of the enormous house. You said it right, worthy. There are very few of those these days. They all chase money, cars, and mansions. I want a wife who loves me for who I am and for our future children. I'm ready to provide everything for my family, but not in exchange for fake feelings. Even here, women chase after money. I'm not rushing into marriage. I won't marry until I find the right girl. You might stay single forever that way. Maybe. But what can I do? You're not interested in me, but I'd marry you right now. Mia laughed. She liked this strange guy. It was clear he was showing her some attention, but it was subtle and respectful. He didn't seem to expect anything and respected her commitment to her principles. Kerr, your house is just amazing. I'd love to live in a place like this, but alas. My offer still stands, he smiled. Just keep in mind, if things don't work out with your Randy, I'll be waiting. When Randy returned from his trip, Mia was overjoyed. She had felt unbearably lonely without her beloved. Of course, Kerr had somewhat helped alleviate her sadness, and time had flown by faster. But now Mia realized that even a short separation from Randy was terrible. So, how was it? Randy said cheerfully, hugging Mia. I hope you didn't miss me too much. Randy. Mia squeaked plaintively, please don't leave for so long again. A week isn't that long. It felt like an eternity to me. I had so many days off and nothing to do. Mia wanted to tell Randy about Kerr, but something held her back. She feared that Randy might get jealous, even though there was absolutely no reason for it. And what did you do? He asked. I helped Mom around the house, hung out with Jess. Some new neighbors moved into that big house by the river. I gave them a tour. Mia thought this general information would be enough. Neighbors? What are they like? Randy inquired. City folks. They decided to set up a family estate here. Their house is huge. So, you kept yourself entertained. Well, now it's my turn to entertain you. Randy said, showering Mia with kisses. Mia felt an overwhelming surge of happiness. Finally, her beloved was by her side. They spent almost the entire day together. Late in the evening, Mia started getting ready to go home. Listen, Mia, Randy frowned, why do you need to go home? I've been thinking, maybe you should move in here with me. There are decent rooms upstairs, we can set up a kitchen. We'll be living together soon anyway, so why not practice now? Won't Tessa mind? Mia asked. Are you really worried about that? We won't be living in the main house. You might run into her a couple of times, but she needs to get used to it too. By the way, I found a couple of options for our future home. Really? Yes. We'll have to do some serious renovations, but the houses are sturdy and have good plots. The best part is, they're being sold for a reasonable price. I have enough savings for the purchase. That's great. Mia said excitedly. Randy, don't think I need a palace. I'm ready to live anywhere with you. If you want, I'll stay tonight. I'll just call Mom and let her know not to wait for me. From that day on, Mia moved into Randy's cottage. Naturally, Tessa wasn't too thrilled about it. What annoyed her even more was that Mia didn't respond to Kerr's advances. Tessa had spoken with Kerr and was impressed by him. Few girls could resist such a charming and well-off man. Apparently, Mia was truly in love with Randy, but even this didn't deter Tessa. She only needed to wait, so she asked Kerr to remain persistent and keep trying to win Mia over by any means. Mia occasionally met with Kerr when Randy was working, and she had a day off. She found him interesting but couldn't bring herself to tell her fiancé that she was spending time with another man, even if it was harmless. Randy would never understand such behavior. Mia thought it would be best to introduce the guys, but the right moment never came. She sometimes visited Kerr at his house. Randy had no idea. Mia saw nothing wrong with her actions, but it was still hard for her to confess to Randy that she had made a male friend. By early June, Mia already felt like the mistress of Randy's house. The wedding was scheduled for mid-August. Both were eagerly awaiting the event. Everything changed after one incident. Mia found out she was pregnant. Randy. Mia walked into her fiancé's study while he was filling out some paperwork. I need to tell you something. Seeing the concern on Mia's face, Randy immediately put the papers aside. What is it, honey? What's wrong? I don't even know how to start. Well, Randy, you're going to be a father soon. Are you serious? Randy jumped up from his desk. This is the best news ever, Mia. He lifted her in his arms and began spinning her around the room. They both laughed, and Mia even cried a little from happiness. She had been a bit scared to share such news with her beloved, but now all her fears disappeared. When did you find out? Randy gently put her down. A couple of days ago, but I couldn't bring myself to talk about it. We need to celebrate this right away. Have you told anyone else? Of course not. How could I tell anyone before you? I don't even know if we should tell anyone before the wedding. Why not? Randy was surprised. Mia, we live in the 21st century. We've been together for a long time. There's nothing wrong with our child being conceived in love. Your mom will probably freak out. She won't. I think the birth of her grandchild will finally calm her down. She loves kids. She loves you. She's not so fond of me. And there's no guarantee she'll like our child. That's nonsense. To prove you're wrong, let's go tell her right now. Maybe we shouldn't, Mia tried to resist. I have a bad feeling about this. That's just your hormones talking. Trust me, I'm a doctor. Alright, let's try, Mia agreed reluctantly. She realized there was no point in trying to hide the pregnancy. It was clear that Randy was going to tell everyone he could, as he was eager to share his joy. Mia and Randy went to see Tessa after lunch. The woman was typing something on her laptop. I didn't expect you, she greeted them without looking up. You could have at least warned me, I didn't even prepare lunch. It's okay, Mom. We've already eaten. Alright. Mom, Randy began slyly, we have some news for you. Deja vu. What is it this time? The wedding is still 2 months away, isn't it? Mia, you tell her, Randy turned to Mia. No, Randy, she looked at him pleadingly. Okay, coward. Mom, we want to tell you that very soon you'll be a grandmother. Tessa froze. She thought she had misheard. What? She squinted, a grandmother. Yes, Mom, you heard right, Randy rushed to hug his mother, you can't imagine how happy I am. I can't imagine, Tessa said, well, congratulations. She gave Mia a hard look. The girl was blushing. Mia, you don't seem very happy, Tessa addressed her. I am happy, Mia replied. As she had feared, her worst suspicions were confirmed. Tessa took the news very negatively. We should celebrate such a wonderful event. Tessa suddenly suggested, a faint smile appearing on her face. See, Mia, you were worried for nothing. Look how happy Mom is. The women exchanged glances. One held undisguised contempt, the other real fear. Mia was amazed that Randy didn't notice his mother's lack of shared joy. Of course, I'm happy, son. Children are a great blessing. Everything will be different for you now. But don't worry, I'll help. Randy left for work on an urgent call. Mia was bustling around the kitchen when Tessa quietly entered the house. Mia felt her scrutinizing gaze and turned around. Oh, Tessa, you startled me. People get scared when they have something to hide, Tessa remarked casually. What are you talking about? Mia didn't understand. Listen to me, girl. If you think you've won, you're greatly mistaken. Do you think I don't know who this baby is from? What? Of course, it's Randy's. Whose else could it be? You're trying to convince everyone. Well done, you've been quite successful. But you won't fool me. If you were hoping to keep your relationship with Kerr a secret, I'm sorry to inform you, you failed. With Kerr. Mia's insides went cold. With Kerr. Don't pretend you don't understand anything. Do you think no one notices anything? You've been seeing this man regularly for a couple of months now. Almost a year in a relationship with my son and no pregnancy. But as soon as a rich and charming man appeared, suddenly you're pregnant. How could you think such a thing? Mia said in horror, Kerr is just a friend. There's no such thing as friendship between a man and a woman. Any interaction leads to the bedroom or nowhere. Unless it strictly concerns business. And you became friends too quickly. Don't you think? What's wrong with that? You can ask my parents yourself. They get along well with Kerr too. There you go, introducing him to your parents already. But I'm curious, what does Randy think about your friendship? Mia looked down. Only now did she realize the mistake she made by not telling Randy anything about Kerr. This woman had cornered her. She could distort any information now as she pleased. But Randy will believe me. He loves me, Mia thought, this is just a misunderstanding. He knows exactly what his mother is capable of. He must take my side in this. Keep in mind, dear, Tessa sat down, you won't get my son. I will tell him everything. And believe me, he won't tolerate this. Tessa, you've made all this up, Mia's eyes welled up with tears, her voice nearly shouting. I never even thought about betraying Randy. I love him. It's too late. Admit you were wrong and pack your things. I won't tolerate you in my house anymore. I thought you were a decent girl, welcomed you into my family, but you turned out to be a scoundrel. Thank goodness you didn't manage to get married. Don't think you can impose your child on my son. Get out, so I never have to see you again. Go to that cur. I'm sure he'll be happy to have you. Mia was stunned. Hot tears streamed down her cheeks. She didn't know what to do. Everything Tessa had said was a lie. But now Mia understood that this woman was capable of anything to ruin her life. Are you deaf? Tessa asked firmly, getting up from her chair. You have 1 hour. After that time, you will leave here forever and never bother my son again. If you don't, it's on you. I won't stop at anything. I don't need such a stain on my reputation. With these words, Tessa left the kitchen and went. Mia was completely shattered. She needed to wait for Randy and explain everything to him. She dialed his number, but he didn't answer. Randy was expected back only by evening, and Tessa had given her an hour to pack. Mia didn't want to escalate the conflict further. Instead of packing, she simply left, hoping to resolve the misunderstanding with Randy when he returned. Mom! Randy rushed into the house. Do you know where Mia is? I came back, and she's gone. It's late. Son, come in. Sit down, I need to tell you something, Tessa said calmly. What's going on? Randy was worried. You see, Mia left. She won't be coming back. And I advise you to forget about her as soon as possible. What nonsense are you talking about? What do you mean, she left? Where did she go? To her parents? Randy asked, bewildered. I'm afraid not to her parents, sighed Tessa. Then where? Randy was utterly confused. Explain properly what's going on. She left, Tessa waved her hand vaguely, she confessed everything to me. Confessed? I don't understand anything. The child isn't yours, son. What? Randy clenched his fists. What are you even talking about? What do you mean, not mine? Oh, you don't know yet. I'm sorry. Our girl was skillfully hiding that she was seeing another man. She thought she could keep it under wraps in the village, but rumors spread like wildfire. You didn't want to notice anything, blinded by your love. Mom, stop talking nonsense. What rumors? Do you know who moved into the house by the shore? Tessa asked. Yeah, Mia mentioned it, some big family. She even met them. Well, she didn't lie about that. She met him, not the family. It's a wealthy handsome guy. He's been courting her for the past couple of months. That's what happened while you were away at your conference. He showers her with attention, takes her out around town, buys her flowers. And you, fool, didn't see any of it. Now she's pregnant with his child. You lived with her all this time and nothing. But suddenly, bam, she's pregnant. Mom, I don't believe you. These are just your malicious fantasies. I know you never really liked Mia, but this is going too far. Ask her about this cur. Hear what she has to say. How else can you explain that she didn't even mention him to you? My advice to you, forget about this girl. There will be other women, more worthy and decent. No way. I'm not letting this go like this. Randy stormed out of his mother's house, jumped into his car, and raced to Mia's place. As he approached the familiar gate, he noticed a luxurious SUV parked in front. Who could be driving such a thing around here, he wondered. Randy got out of his car and headed towards Mia's house. The windows were brightly lit, and loud voices could be heard from inside. Mia's father was angrily saying something, but Randy couldn't make out the words. He knocked loudly on the door. Erin appeared at the doorway a minute later. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying or rubbing them vigorously. Randy, she exclaimed joyfully, finally. Come in quickly. Aaron, what's going on? Mom said so many terrible things about Mia. Where is she? I need to talk to her, Randy said urgently. Randy walked into the room and saw Mia sitting on the couch. Her face was red, tears still wet on her cheeks, but it wasn't that which shocked Randy, ready to rush to her. Sitting next to Mia was a young man, holding her hand tightly. The stranger was well-dressed and handsome. Randy immediately understood that this was the person his mother had talked about. So, is it true? Randy began, boiling with anger. I thought Mom was making up lies again. Turns out, this time she was right. Randy. Mia jumped up from the couch, freeing her hand. You've got it all wrong. I'm wrong. Right in front of me, you've been portrayed as such a deceitful person. Without believing it, I rush here and see this scene. And you, I suppose, are Kerr. I won't shake your hand, sorry. You didn't even bother to explain everything to me, and here you are, jumping into his arms right away. Of course, he's the father of your future child, and I believed in you, thought you were special. Apparently, Mom had her reasons for how she treated you. I don't want to know you anymore. Randy, Mia shouted, but it was too late. For a whole week, Mia didn't leave the house. More than anything, she wanted to see Randy, but he didn't answer her calls. She was afraid to go to his house. Seeing her daughter suffer so much, Erin tried her best to help her. Sweetheart, you should at least eat something, she gently said, entering Mia's room. Mia lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. I'm not hungry, Mom. Thanks. How can you not be hungry? You haven't eaten anything for days. This isn't right. And in general, enough lying around. We need to fix this situation urgently. How do we fix it, Mom? Can't you see how Tessa portrayed me? Now it's impossible to prove anything to Randy. And this Kerr, why did he even come here? If not for him, I could have explained everything properly. And now Randy is convinced that everything is just as Tessa told him. But it's not true, honey, her mother stroked her head. The most important thing is that we both know it. And you still need to talk to Randy no matter what. He loves you, so he'll listen. He doesn't love me, Mia cried. Put yourself in his shoes. If you heard all this, anyone would doubt. I'm such a fool. Why didn't I tell him everything earlier? It's all my fault that everything turned out like this. Don't blame yourself, Erin comforted her. Let me talk to Randy myself, explain the truth. It's pointless. He won't believe anyone now. And what about the baby? What's there to think about? Even if Randy doesn't believe you and won't forgive you, we'll raise the child ourselves. Think instead about how to make up with Randy. He's not a stupid guy, he should at least listen. As long as his mom is against me, nothing will work out. Who knows what she told him? I'll talk to Tessa myself. Enough of this. I've had it. Let her meddle in people's lives as much as she wants, but now she's crossed a line with me. Mom. I'll handle this myself. You should get ready to go to Randy. Randy was sitting in his office after just finishing an operation on a goat. The animal was recovering from anesthesia in the adjacent room, so Randy had to monitor it closely. There was a quiet knock on the door. Come in. Randy called out, opening the door cautiously. Mia entered the room. Hello, Randy, she said softly. You. Randy's eyes flashed. I told you I'm not interested in hearing anything. You've made your choice. It's not up to me now to decide your future. I didn't want to come. Mom made me. She said you're smart enough to at least hear my side before making a decision. Because what you know now is only part of the picture. Randy stared at her for a long moment. Mia looked small and on the verge of tears. Randy's heart clenched, he loved Mia. Even the hurt she had caused, the betrayal, the deceit, couldn't destroy the deep feelings he had for her. Fine, he nodded. I'll listen, but then you leave right after. Go ahead. You can sit if you want. Mia awkwardly took a seat and sighed deeply. I'm deeply sorry, Randy, but what happened wasn't what it seemed. I met Kerr when you were away. I had nothing to do and this guy just arrived in the village, knowing no one. I offered to help him settle in. You know it's easier when you have friends around. He met my parents too. You can ask them. When he visited us, he mostly talked with my dad. I wasn't even around. Yes, I showed him around the area, visited him a few times. But there was nothing more to it. I told him straight away I have a fiancé whom I love. He tried to flirt with me, but I shut it down immediately, you understand? Okay, Randy nodded. But why didn't you tell me anything about this? I was foolish. At first, I was just scared of how you might react, and then it just seemed awkward to bring it up. I got tangled up in my thoughts, never imagining it would lead to all this. And when Tessa came to me and said all that, I was completely lost. She just kicked me out and told me never to come back. I wanted to wait for you and explain everything, but she gave me an ultimatum. I went home, and then Kerr happened to stop by. He was visiting my dad. But I told them everything, and then you showed up. You know the rest. There was never anything between me and Kerr, never, I swear on anything you want. I know it's hard to believe, especially after how your mom twisted everything. But please, just believe me. I love you more than life itself. I never even thought about anyone else. You know me. What can I do to make you believe me? My mother kicked you out. Yes. I wanted to wait for you and explain everything, but she gave me an hour to pack and threatened me. I left home, and Kerr happened to come by. He was visiting my dad. But I told them everything, and then you showed up. You know the rest. Why was he holding your hand then? He was just comforting me, I guess. I hardly remember what happened. I didn't even realize he was sitting next to me. When I saw you, I snapped out of it. So you're saying everything my mother said was made up? I don't know why she thought I was having an affair with him. She told me men and women can't be just friends and all that. So she was just accusing without evidence. Yes, just her assumptions. Rumors, she says, spread around the village. That's what got her interested. But what rumors? Sure, they saw us together a couple of times, but we didn't do anything. He hung out with Jess too, but for some reason, no one said anything about that. He's a sociable guy. Now everyone knows. But you did visit him? I did, Mia nodded. I won't lie, but we just talked. Nothing more, you know. It's hard to find company with similar interests around here. And he's interesting, educated, knows a lot. Alright, Randy sighed. Let's say I believe you. What's next? What do you mean? Mia looked surprised. Next, it's as it was. We're having a child, Randy. You can order any test to confirm paternity, anything you want. If you don't want to marry me, I won't insist. But I love you. That's all I wanted to say. And now, I think I'll go. Mia headed for the door, tears streaming down her cheeks. She didn't want Randy to see them. Wait. Randy jumped up from his desk. Don't go. He embraced Mia tightly. I love you too. And I believe you. I need some time to process all of this. If you want, go home now, and I'll try to talk to my mother. I can't just let things stay as they are. Even if we get married, she won't give you any peace. I'll walk you out now so the whole damn village sees that we're above these rumors, and we'll sort things out tomorrow. Alright? Mia nodded. After Randy saw her off, he entered his parents' house. Tessa was nowhere to be seen. Where did she disappear to? He muttered aloud. Mom. No answer came. Randy headed upstairs to his mother's room. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, he could hear Tessa's voice. She was talking on the phone. Of course. I don't even know how to thank Malcolm. No, seriously, it all turned out even better than I expected. He didn't even have to do much. She played herself. Randy's now convinced the child isn't his, doesn't even want to look at her. So, thanks again. I knew I could count on you. Aha. Definitely, we'll meet. Goodbye. She hung up. Through the cracked door, Randy saw the glow on her face. She was literally beaming with joy. Now he understood everything. He fully believed Mia's words, but now another problem had arisen. Randy decisively entered the room, catching his mother off guard. Explain yourself, please, he said firmly. Son. Tessa responded fearfully. When did you come in? I didn't hear you. Of course, you didn't hear. You were engrossed in a conversation with someone named Malcolm. Mom, have you completely lost your mind? You've misunderstood everything, Randy. No, right now I understand everything perfectly. And I feel awful realizing I almost became another one of your victims. Apologize to Mia immediately. I demand it, or forget that you have a son. Randy, his mother's voice quivered, this was all for your sake. I haven't done anything wrong. Mom, I've always admired you, but this is despicable. How could you stoop so low? If you don't like Mia, that's your right, but you can't choose for me. How do you not understand that? I love this woman. You fool. Tessa was no longer holding back her tears. I don't care who you choose. I'm just afraid of losing you because besides you, I have no one. I spent so many years raising you, and now some girl comes along and in less than a year takes you away from me. Mom, this is how life goes. You can't do anything about it. And why do you assume I'll abandon you? We're not going anywhere, and you'll soon have a grandchild. Why are you planning to move out then? Is this house too small? What kind of house are you planning to buy? I saw documents for that house of yours. And you're digging through my papers too. Have you no shame? What's it like living with you? You suffocate everyone, even me. Mia will go crazy here. You'll be making everyone do what you want. Isn't that true? Not true. I'll do anything for you, dear. If you want, I'll change. People don't change with the snap of a finger, especially not to please someone else. You have to come to terms with this yourself. Until you accept Mia and me as we are, there's no talk of a future together. Do you understand that? It's time for you to step out of your shell and start living authentically. He left the room. Tessa slumped onto the bed, covered her face with her hands, and burst into tears. It's unknown how long she sat there like that, but a persistent ringing pulled her out of her trance. Someone was insistently pressing the doorbell. Tessa didn't want to see anyone, especially in her current state, but somehow, she didn't care. She slowly made her way downstairs. Unlocking the door, she was surprised to find Aaron standing there. Aaron? She exclaimed in surprise. Hello, Tessa. Aaron smiled warmly. I decided to drop by for a visit. May I come in? Of course. Come in, Tessa sniffed. Are you feeling unwell? You look terrible. Haven't seen you look this way since we were 20. And then Tessa broke down. She cried with such intensity that she couldn't even stand. She sank to the ground, covering her face and shaking. Aaron was taken aback. She hadn't expected to see her former friend in such a state. This woman had always been proud, unapproachable, radiating immense inner strength. Yet here was Aaron, facing a disheveled, hysterical girl, just like she was before marriage, suffering from her parents' lack of understanding. Tessa, what's wrong? Aaron sat down beside her and embraced her. Let's go inside. I'm such a fool, Erin. Tessa sobbed. I know that already. Come on, get up. Erin helped her to her feet and led her inside. She immediately went to the kitchen and made tea. Here, drink this. When someone's in such a low state, a hot drink can help. Tessa took a sip from the cup and sighed deeply. Now, tell me what happened, Erin demanded. Erin, I've done something terrible. I nearly ruined your daughter's life, and now Randy. It was me who arranged for them to split up. Can you believe it, me? And Tessa told her friend everything she had done. Erin could only shake her head. Tell me, did Mia do anything wrong to you? Nothing. It's all my pride and fear. I was so afraid Randy would leave me for good that I was willing to do anything. I've invested so much in him. After Pierce's death, it was hard, and living with him was tough too, but I found the strength to stand on my own 2 feet. Then there were these rumors. Do you think I don't know what people say behind my back? I wanted to rise above it all, and I did. But now, what was it all for if I'm left alone? But you understood that sooner or later you'd have to let the boy go. Why were you so foolish? I don't recognize you anymore. I've changed a lot, Erin. We haven't spoken in so many years. I didn't even notice how I turned into a monster. You're not a monster at all. Right now, I see a sad girl who cornered herself. Why are you still alone? You could have married long ago and stopped torturing yourself. It's easy for you to say. You're lucky with marriage. Your husband is a wonderful man. Everything is perfect for you. There's no one like that left in our village. Why are you so attached to this village? You could have moved to the city long ago, you have the money. You even have apartments, as far as I know. Leave the boy alone already, start your own life. Do you think it's that simple? I loved only once, and it didn't work out, and then I don't even want to remember. I don't trust men. Sam betrayed me back then, ran off, traded me for a city girl. I still can't forgive him. So you don't know? Erin exhaled. Don't know what? Tessa tensed, feeling insulted at the thought she might not be aware of something. Sam didn't actually run away back then. We had already stopped talking to each other by then, and I didn't want to remind you again, seeing how much you were suffering. Your father and Pierce beat him badly before your escape. They took him to the city for emergency surgery. Your father scared him so much he never came back here. And no one could prove anything. He even tried to visit once, but they wouldn't let him see you. You're lying right now. Tell me you're lying. No, Tessa, it's the plain truth. I thought you knew everything, but... how could they? Scoundrels. Tessa started hysterically again. Tessa. There's no one left to blame now. Think about what to do next. Erin, I still love Sam. That's why I didn't let anyone else close. Do you know what kind of men have pursued me, even now? But I don't need anyone. Love, you say? Maybe try to find him. It's easier now. You remember everything about him. Of course, I remember every day. But I'm sure he doesn't need me. You can tell me anything, but I believe that love is once and forever, and mutual. If you say you still remember and love him, then he probably does too. Come on, you have nothing to lose. I'll help you find him if he's still alive. I don't even know. Tessa, come on, pull yourself together, go wash up, and I'll try to look him up on social media in the meantime. When Tessa came out of the shower, Erin already had a whole list ready of Sam Jordan's, sorted by birthdate. Well, take a look. Maybe you'll recognize someone. Tessa's trembling fingers slid across the phone screen. She closed several pages immediately before opening the right one. Erin understood instantly that her friend had found him. Her gaze froze, fixed on the screen. Her fingers stiffened, gripping the phone tightly. Erin, she whispered, I found him. It's him. Definitely him. Are you sure? His eyes are unmistakable, like lakes. He hasn't changed a bit. Erin took the phone and studied the man's photo. If this was indeed Sam, she wouldn't have recognized him for anything. Tessa was exaggerating about him not changing at all, but his eyes did resemble what she remembered. Sam lived not far from Erin, but so many years had passed that she barely remembered what the guy looked like. And what now? Tessa asked in a trembling voice. What do you mean, what now? Write to him. Why me? Well, should I write? Don't be ridiculous. He's your man, not mine. But what if he's married, has a family? No, I can't do this. He's probably forgotten about me after all these years. You won't know until you try. Right. A couple of minutes later, the message was sent. Judging by his status, the man rarely visited his page. The last time he was active was about a week ago. Do you think he'll reply? Tessa asked, still looking at Sam's photo on his profile. Look, these must be his kids. Oh, I shouldn't have messaged him. I feel like this won't lead to anything. There's no turning back now, Erin smiled. Tessa sat in her car, parked outside a small cafe in the city center. Sam replied, not immediately, but judging by his message, he was glad to hear from an old acquaintance. He immediately suggested meeting up. Tessa hesitated for a long time whether to accept the offer, but Erin practically forced her to do so. And now here she was, trembling with fear, not rushing to get out of the car. Finally, she took a deep breath and pulled the door handle. In the cafe, she walked in with her usual confident stride, trying not to show her inner turmoil. Sam was sitting with his back to the entrance, but Tessa recognized him instantly by certain visible signs only she could see. Hello, Sam, she softly said, approaching his table. The man stood up abruptly. Tessa, I can't believe my eyes. Sit down quickly. What would you like to order? When you messaged, I even thought it was some kind of joke. It's been so many years. Yeah, quite a few, Tessa nodded, taking her seat. I never forgot about you. I'm sorry for how things turned out back then. But your father. Don't blame yourself, Sam, Tessa smiled. If only I had known all of this sooner, things would have turned out differently. Erin just told me recently. I've been waiting for you my whole life. I couldn't forgive the betrayal, but I never stopped loving you. So you didn't know anything at all? Not about the hospital or the threats? Nothing. When Erin told me, I couldn't believe it. It's true, Tessa, all of it. I acted like a coward, scared of your father, and moved to the city. My aunt lived here then, she took me in. I once came to see you, overcame my fear, but I was preempted, made to understand that if I came near your house again, they'd finish what they started. You already had a son by then. I thought it wasn't right to meddle in someone else's life and gave up trying. I regretted it all my life, even though I had my own children by then. You have children? Yes, an older daughter and a son. They live on their own now. And your wife? Sam frowned, She passed away the year before last. Cancer. Now I'm completely alone. The kids say I should remarry, not shut myself off. But I can't. I only married then because my parents insisted. Laura was a good wife, but I couldn't love her. Respected her, valued her, yes, but didn't love her. You might think I'm being sentimental now, but I never forgot you. That was true love. Why bring up the past now? Though I admit, seeing your message made my heart ache. But dreaming isn't my thing. You're probably married yourself. You seem successful. I won't even try to interfere in your life. You fool, Sam. If you knew the truth, you wouldn't say that. I'm not married either, couldn't forget you even after a quarter of a century. I dedicated my whole life to my son. Pierce passed away a long time ago. Since then, I've been deeply involved in business. He left me assets, and I managed to use them wisely. I devoted myself entirely to my son. Men courted me, but none were needed. I still live in the village. You could say I'm a local celebrity. How did you decide to message me then? Like I said. Once Aaron told me the truth, how everything really happened, I wanted to find you. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life and never found happiness. So I thought, what if you haven't forgotten me? Remarkable, Sam replied after a moment. He covered Tessa's hand with his own and squeezed it tightly. The wedding was lavish. Tessa spared no expense on refreshments and decorations. She personally presented Mia with her gift in advance, a stunning pearl-studded white dress. "Tessa, are you out of your mind?" protested Mia. "This must have cost a fortune. How can a simple country girl like me wear something like this?" "Mia, you silly girl. A wedding for true love happens only once in a lifetime. I want everything to be perfect for you and Randy. You're like a daughter to me now, so don't argue. Let's forget past grievances. I was foolish and didn't understand what I was doing. And now?" Mia asked cautiously. "And now? Now I am happy. I've realized you can't build happiness on someone else's misery. But if you give people the chance to be happy, things will work out for you too. What about you and Sam? When will you celebrate your wedding?" "Oh, it's too early to talk about that." "Not at all. Remember what you told me? If you love, there's no need to delay." Though perhaps those words weren't sincere. "Okay," Tessa said sternly, looking at her future daughter-in-law. "I understand you may not forgive me for a long time for what I've done, but from now on, everything I say comes from the heart. Of course, we'll probably still argue plenty, since we'll be living together." "I wouldn't be so sure about that." "What do you mean?" frowned Tessa. "Are you thinking of moving again?" "Don't even think about it. There's enough room for everyone here. Have 10 children if you want." "I'm not talking about that," Mia whispered. "Sam instructed me to keep it a secret from you." "But you know me, I can't keep secrets." "What else did he plan?" "I know when he's planning to propose to you. And you'll agree, don't even argue. But he won't come back to the village, he has work, so he plans to move you to the city and visit here only on weekends." "What?" Tessa squinted. "He wasn't going to ask me. This all seems rather suspicious." "Stop suspecting everyone, Tessa. It's logical he wouldn't return here. I think you understand where this is all heading. Stop clinging to this village. You've done everything you could here. How can I just leave everything behind? Everything's settled here. Think like a woman for once, not just a businesswoman. Nothing will disappear here. Randy and I are here for what reason? I won't let the farm fall apart. You're family to me now. I prefer to forget past offenses, especially since what's stopping you from controlling everything from city?" "Well said, girl. Alright, let's wait for the proposal first. And you, hurry up and try on the dress. We still have plenty to do. There will be so many guests." Mia gave birth to a wonderful, healthy boy after Christmas. The delivery was conducted at home. Randy specifically brought a doctor from the city clinic for this purpose. Mia refused to go to the city. Her husband, understanding that it was easier to do as his wife wished. Everything went smoothly. By that time, Tessa was already living in the city. Upon learning that she had become a grandmother, she immediately rushed to the village, forgetting everything else in the world. She didn't even warn Sam that she was leaving urgently. "Oh, how silly you are," she said, "could you really give birth at home? Anything could have happened. What are hospitals for, anyway?" "Well, thank God everything turned out fine." "And what did you name him?" she asked Mia sternly. "Benjamin," the new mom smiled. "Benjamin. What a beautiful name," Tessa exclaimed. He seems to resemble you in some way. Look at how he furrows his brows, she said. Let me see. Tessa leaned closer to the baby and furrowed her brows. As if in response, the little boy did the same. Both women laughed. Then, captivated, they delighted in how the little boy wrinkled his tiny face. Can I hold him? Tessa asked. Of course, just be gentle. Don't worry, Mia. Randy might be all grown up now, but I remember rocking him just like this. Tessa chuckled softly. You're still at it, Tessa, Mia chuckled back quietly. Well, old habits die hard, Tessa smiled in response, gently lifting baby Benjamin into her arms. Feeling the warmth of this tiny fragile body made her heart glow. Tessa rocked him, softly humming a tune. The boy's big eyes watched her lips intently with each movement. Tessa felt his little heart beating, making her own beat even stronger. Grandma, she said thoughtfully, just listen, Mia. Grandma. It sounds so wonderful. I never would have thought. And soon he'll be calling me that. Well, not so soon. He's just been born. So for now, enjoy being called just Mom. It'll be a year and a half, maybe more, until Grandma, Mia replied. Oh, dear. You're still young, it's obvious. You won't even notice how quickly time flies. First, he'll call me Grandma, and before you know it, his children will be calling you that, she said nostalgically. What's all this family bliss? Randy chimed in cheerfully as he walked into the room. Mom, I didn't expect you so early. Sam just called, he was frantic. Why didn't you tell him anything? Oh, the mother waved off, he's obsessed with his work. I don't distract him often. He'll survive. My grandson was born. Could I have missed that? We could have come together this weekend. Why did you have to drop everything and come? Randy asked. You don't understand, son. I've missed so much of my life while I was shut up inside myself. Now I won't let a single second of happiness